Imagine the world ending, not with a bang, but with a whisper carried on the breath of a flea. From 1347 to 1351, the Black Death swept across Europe, the Middle East, and North Africa, wiping out an estimated 30 to 60% of the population. It was an apocalypse, but what happened next? What was life like for the survivors who woke up in a silent, empty world? You might think it was all doom and gloom, right? Grief, fear, a total societal collapse. And there was plenty of that. The psychological trauma was immense. People saw their entire families, entire villages vanish. Many believed it was God's punishment, the end of days. But here's the unexpected twist. For many of the survivors, especially the common peasants, life actually got better. A lot better. Think about it from a simple supply and demand perspective. Before the plague, Europe was overpopulated. There wasn't enough land, not enough food, and way too many workers. Lords and landowners held all the power. Peasants were tied to the land, working for pitiful wages, basically living as serfs. Then suddenly half the workforce is gone. Who has the power now? The workers. For the first time in centuries, laborers were in the driver's seat. Landowners were desperate. Fields were overgrown, harvests were rotting, and they needed people to work the land. So peasants could actually negotiate. They could demand higher wages, better conditions, more freedom. A farmhand who earned a few pence a day before the plague could now demand triple that. And if his lord refused, he'd just walk down the road to the next estate, where another lord would gladly hire him. This was revolutionary. The rigid feudal system that had defined society for 1,000 years began to crack. Governments and nobles tried to fight it, of course. They passed laws like the Statute of Laborers in England in 1351, trying to force wages back down to pre-plague levels, but it was like trying to hold back the tide. The people had tasted a new kind of freedom, and they weren't giving it up. This newfound power led to massive social upheaval, like the Peasants' Revolt in England in 1381. They were no longer just faceless serfs. They were individuals with value and a voice. And it wasn't just about wages. With so much land suddenly available, peasants could rent or even buy their own plots. Imagine being a family that had been tied to the same piece of land for generations, serving a lord, and now you could have a farm of your own. This led to a shift in agriculture. Instead of just growing grain, people had the land and resources to diversify into animal farming, raising sheep for wool or cattle for meat and dairy. And what happens when people have more money? They spend it. The standard of living for the average person shot up. Archaeological evidence shows that the post-plague diet improved dramatically. People were eating more meat, more fish, better quality bread. They could afford better clothing, better tools, and even small luxuries. This period is sometimes called the Golden Age of the English laborer. But the change wasn't just economic. The sheer scale of the death toll made people question everything. They questioned the church. Why couldn't the priests and their prayers stop the plague? This skepticism paved the way for new ways of thinking and contributed to the currents that would eventually lead to the Reformation. They questioned medicine. The old theories based on humors and bad air had failed spectacularly, pushing people to seek more practical, observation-based medical knowledge. The Black Death was an unimaginable horror. It was a scar on the face of humanity, but out of its ashes a new world was born. It was a world where a common person had more power, more wealth, and more freedom than ever before. It accelerated the end of feudalism, planted the seeds of a middle class, and fundamentally reshaped the course of Western civilization. It's a chilling reminder that sometimes the most profound changes in history rise from the deepest, darkest tragedies.